This is one of my favorite quick and easy embroidery projects. Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jen. This channel is all about making sewing fun and approachable. I have tried so many different ways of embroidering kitchen and bath towels, and in this video I'll be walking you through the process that I found is easiest for me to do and sort of the least amount of hassle. We'll be going over supplies, just what I do to hoop the project. I will be using the Brother PE 900 today, and you will find a complete list of supplies down below in the description box. This is not a sponsored video. I do use some affiliate links. This is a great sort of starter project if you're new to machine embroidery. I usually have a supply of blank kitchen and bath towels on hand, and I can embroider them up pretty quickly as a gift for somebody. This is going to be a gift. This is a monogram. There's also tons of cute designs. You can do seasonal towels. You can do all kinds of stuff, but this is just one of my all-time faves. The supplies you'll be needing, I'm using a 5x7-inch embroidery hoop. I've got some craft scissors, flexible roller, some type of marking pen that is temporary, so water, air soluble. Also got the SewTites minis here and stabilizer. So the stabilizers I will be using, this is just a medium weight regular tearaway stabilizer, pretty cheap, and they come in big rolls. And then I also have these pre-cut sheets of water soluble topper. I do like to use this material on top of anything that sort of has a pile or kind of lofty or has some texture to it, like these towels. I ordered these from Amazon and I got overnight shipping, which was cool. This came in a 12 pack. I think these are pretty decent as a value. They're 100% cotton. I would say they're fairly absorbent, but they're not too heavy. So I think these are good for embroidery. They've got this like waffle weave. Mine came in a 12 pack. One or two had some minor flaws, but overall I think I'm pretty happy with them. So it's got this little label here. So it's like the We Luxe collection. And these are 100% cotton. I did wash and dry these just because towels do have quite a bit of shrinking to do. So I thought that would be helpful. And I love that these have this little hanging loop. Big fan. And it came in a few different size packs. So that was pretty cool. This is my test stitch out. So whenever I'm doing a new project or some sort of design I haven't stitched out before, I will test it out on just some scrap fabric. This is canvas with some, I think, tearaway stabilizer. And then I cut this out so I can sort of use it as a template so I can see how it looks on the towel. With the placement of these towels, I thought the placement worked out pretty well. And I'm going to be floating this over the hoop. If you're working with thicker materials, it's a little bit easier if you are floating it versus trying to hoop all of this, because it's not super thick, but it's thick enough that it would be kind of a hassle and you don't have to worry about getting burn marks. And I'm going to be placing my towel. I'm using this line here as a guide, and I'm going to be placing my towel about here. And that actually gave me pretty good placement from the bottom of the towel. So you can see it looks really nice folded up. I used rayon thread here. I think this sample here came out pretty good. I'm gonna take my towel. All right, so we're gonna fold it in half the long way. And the good thing about having a label here is at least I know the bottom and the top. So this is the bottom of the towel. Notice I did choose a fairly forgiving design. This is sort of a cursive letter F. So if it's a little bit off, really not gonna be super noticeable. Quote unquote right side of the towel on the inside. And you'll see why I'm doing this in a bit. So it did shrink a little bit in the first laundering, and I didn't use any detergent, I just did water. I'm gonna fold this in half this way, and we're gonna set this aside for a minute. All right, so now let's get the hoop here. Even though my design isn't huge, I kind of like using the surface area of the 5x7-inch hoop. I just find it's a little bit easier. So I've got my tearaway stabilizer here. So we're gonna start off by hooping this by itself. Center this the best I can here. So I'm not pushing the hoop all the way down yet because I want to tighten up this screw quite a bit. This is pretty good. So now I'm going to try to tighten it up and push the inner hoop out a little bit. You can see how much I'm pushing it through just so it kind of peeks through to the other side here. And you do want this to be pretty tight, sort of like a drum. So little flexible ruler here. Now what I'm going to do is mark the center lines of the hoop here. So I've got a marking pen here, and I do have this in the Sewing Report Etsy shop if you are interested. sewingreport.etsy.com. Try to mark the center line. All right. And these towels are pretty forgiving, quite honestly, so I'm not stressing out too much about the towel placement being 1000% perfect. If you can get it to like 95%, I think you'll be okay. You can see I'm using these little center marks. Technically, I don't even really need this cross point here, but I'm doing it anyways. So I've got a lot of excess stabilizer on the outside of the hoop. I'm gonna trim some of that off, and you will see why. I'm leaving about 1.5 inches all around, 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And I especially want to trim the corners. Here's why I trimmed around the outside. I'm going to be temporarily sticking the towel to the tearaway stabilizer using this 505 spray and fix temporary fabric adhesive. But I don't want to gunk up the hoop because I really do not like when that happens. This is a steering wheel cover I got at the dollar store. I know it's a little bit loud, but it works. This was actually a viewer submitted tip, and it works pretty good. So I just take this cheap steering wheel cover, and I'm going to cover up the whole hoop. And this actually works like pretty well, and you know, I don't really care too much about the steering wheel cover, but you can sort of maneuver it into place. It will cover up the hoop itself. I'm just going to be spraying the adhesive here. I've got a cardboard box that I use sort of as a spray booth, so I'm going to go over and spray this area here with the spray adhesive, and I will be returning shortly. It's pretty sticky, but it does the job. I'm going to take off the steering wheel cover here. This is like super sticky. You'll get it on your hands a bit, but the hoop is pretty well protected, which is great. All right, we have to have the towel facing this way, and this is the, I have to remember, this is the bottom. So here's why I folded this. What I'm doing is lining up this center fold with the marked line on the hoop, and you can sort of reposition if necessary, but this is pretty good here. I can also use the waffle weave here to also sort of line it up correctly. All right, I might reposition this just a little bit. This is a pretty forgiving method. You don't have to worry about being too perfectionist with this. And this will stay tacked down pretty well. The spray adhesive isn't ridiculously strong, but strong enough for it to do the job while you're stitching out the design. You're probably also wondering, what are we doing with these SewTites? So at the machine, it will be like this. My design will be right side up here. This is about the center point here. Basically eyeballing this, and I'm gonna put the water-soluble topper around here. And what makes this really convenient is that you can use the bottom of the towel, line it up with this part of the hoop. So that's pretty nice. And this is how the design will look when it's on the towel. I think there's about 2.5 inches up from the bottom. I think that's pretty good placement. So I'm taking the topper here, and then I'm going to use the SewTites to keep this in place, because this design, like, look, I've got a lot to work with here, lots of space. As long as I get the SewTites about here, this should be pretty good. And what I like to do is start with one corner and then work diagonally so that this is pretty taut. Okay. I'm using my template to envision what it will look like finished, but I also have this, of course, finished sample. It's a bit foolproof, and you don't have to mark the towel up, and the tearaway stabilizer, you'll see when we're done, comes off pretty easily. This topper comes off, so in my opinion, this is one of the easiest projects you can do as a beginner if you're kind of new to this. So we'll take this over to the machine, and we'll get this design all finished. Really happy with the way this turned out. The design stitched out beautifully. We just have to clean a few things up. I'm taking my curved scissors here, curved snips, and I'm just trimming off any loose threads. There was one on the front, and there will be a couple on the back where things were knotted off here, but not too much. So yeah, it seems pretty centered here. This design was pretty simple, so there wasn't really too much to clean up. Just have to take off the SewTites and then tear off all the stabilizer, but these types are pretty easy to get off. Oh, and by the way, if you are wondering about this particular font, I purchased a big pack off of Etsy. It was like a huge, like I got like a bunch of tons of different designs in a bundle, but this particular seller doesn't seem to exist anymore. So I don't even know what, if there's a similar alternative, but I was looking through my library and I just liked this particular font. So I chose this one. I just really liked this particular font, and because it's cursive, a little bit more forgiving. Just unhooping the stabilizer, pops right out. Yeah, the temporary adhesive is a good choice because it really doesn't leave behind a lot of residue, and if there is a little bit, it will wash out. This is a towel after all. So now I just have to get some of these little bits out, and that's pretty much it. This project took from start to finish less than really 20 minutes. I did pre-wash the towel, so that took a little bit of time. And then I had to figure out what my design was going to be. Pick this out. But this is really the easiest and quickest, most convenient method I have found so far for hooping towels. I would do the same process pretty much for bigger towels. I suppose if you're doing a bath towel, you could still line up the bottom here. You would need a little bit more clearance between the bottom of the towel and the design, so the placement would be a little bit different, but this particular method works great for kitchen and bath towels, like hand towels in the bathroom, and something of that size. Marking pen, anything, that'll come off in the wash, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. Use your nails or some tweezers or something, and then get the rest of any stabilizer bits off. There's still a little bit of the pen marks just from the stabilizer, but again, it's on the back of the towel. And I get this question a lot. I normally will use white bobbin thread. I get pre-wound bobbins. You can get them all over the place, but I think I forgot where I got mine. Because the towel is white, it works out good. Normally I don't do matching bobbin thread unless the back of the project is going to be very prominent. And you can see just with the tension settings, I think I had mine set at like 4.6 and the other one I had set at 4.0, but I could have experimented a bit more with the tension, but I don't really think it's a huge deal. So this is the bobbin thread, and then here is the front of the project. I think it looks really nice, and I just decided to do sort of a set in 2 fall colors. So I've got sort of a pumpkin-y color, and then a kind of a nice, I don't know what you would call this green color, but I just really liked this thread. This is Glide thread. I do sell some in the Etsy shop. Really beautiful 40 weight rayon thread, and yeah, I really like the quality of Glide and the color selection. To do each towel only costs you a couple bucks in the supplies, but they look really nice and they're highly customizable. It definitely looks more high-end to the recipient. They're like, oh, how fancy. So yeah, real quick and easy project. So if you fold the towel in half, it sort of looks like this. So I think this placement is pretty appropriate for this towel size. I am glad I washed these beforehand because there was quite a bit of shrinkage. All right, so here's my finished towel, and here was the one I did previously, but really, really cute gifts, cute way to decorate your home. You could make these for yourself. Great gifts, but I would definitely recommend get a bunch of blank towels, keep them in your sewing room, in your spare closet, and then whenever you need a quick gift, you can bust these out, do a design, and then it's ready to go. But this is a project you can do definitely within a half an hour, other than selecting your design and whatnot. And also like the complexity of the design. This was just a 1 thread color, very simple design because it's a monogram, but really cute. So let me know what you think down below in the comments. I do have a lot of other embroidery videos here on the channel if you're new here and I was using the Brother PE 900. I also have the Brother PE 800 and the Brother Sketch, but the Brother PE 900 is the one I've been using a lot lately. I know the Sketch has the magnetic hoop that does make it a little bit easier in some situations, but I thought the PE 900 would be a good one for this project. So this is my best, easiest method for hooping and embroidering kitchen and bath towels. I'm Jen with the Sewing Report. I'll see you again in the next one, and remember, whatever you're doing, make it fun.